Hello, good evening. Welcome. My name is Abedako. Welcome. I want to share with you tonight um, something I call the success of the business is in its design. The success of the business is in its design. The success of the business is in its design. I believe and I know that for some people in other countries in around the world, young people particularly, they would not, maybe some of them coming from developed countries, they would not have to complete school and worry about whether they are going to get a job to do with, whether they are going to get a place to work and earn a living and live their aspiration or not, because you can see that they have a lot of activities going. Now, I am not so much interested in talking to people like that. I think that I am interested in talking to people who are coming from countries, particularly countries in Africa, countries like Ghana, countries like Nigeria, countries like Kenya, countries like Togo, Benin. I'm talking to young people like that. And why I'm talking to young people like that is that you may even have the desire to look for a job. You may even have the desire to look for a place to work. And sometimes to get a place to work, get a job, a decent one as you would want after your so-called school, sometimes it's so difficult. And so the drive to make a living, the drive to pursue your dreams, most likely is going to fall on the scale. It's going to fall at a place where you may have to do something because life, you cannot put a pause on life. You can only, the time runs like that. And so when I talk about business, when I talk about entrepreneurship, for some people, they have the option, it's not so much a big deal. They can have some job somewhere. But to majority of the young men and women in our country, you may have to just embrace it. You may have to equip yourself. You may have to just learn it because it may be the only option for most people. The government employs, but how many do they employ? The so-called private sector employs, but how many would they employ? So there will be a lot of us in between who would have to just, whether we like it or not, embrace, brace ourselves with courage and try to start to do something with our lives. And I want to talk about that desire that you have to start a business on your own. The success of that business will come from the design that you have for the business. When you're going to build a house, you design. The architect will come and design something, and you ask a lot of questions. Structural engineers will come and design, and they do a lot of calculation. And hopefully, if the design is good and you have a good building engineer, building contractor, then we could have a successful structure. Same with business. You would have to have the wisdom to know that the success or the failure of the business is going to come from its design. And usually when you are starting for the first time, you may not have that much wisdom to design it as it's supposed to be. But at least it should be at somewhere back of your mind that if the business fails, somewhere along the line, the design was not right. And if the business succeeds, somewhere, the design was right. We have started a lot of entities that they call business. So I remember I started doing something called business right after national service. In school, we were trying to do something. We were trying to trade. We were trying to, just, were you sure? We were not sure, but we were trying to do something. There are a lot of the youth like that. Let me tell you something. Majority of the so-called top men in our country, the big people position, Majority of them, their burden is not to create the future for us. I would not even consider myself as young. Majority of them are not thinking of the future of the young men and women who are around 20 years. Most of them are just looking at a Land Cruiser to drive, a big political position or government position, buy a house, send their children abroad, things like that. If you're lucky in your lifetime, you may get somebody who may be so much concerned. But majority, I'm not saying it's everybody, but majority of them that the youth are looking up to say this is a successful man, most of them are not thinking about creating a country, creating a continent, creating a future for the youth. No, they are looking at their children going to school abroad, coming back to become ministers and presidents. That's what they are thinking about. They are not thinking about our future. And so you would have to think about that future. If you are waiting for things to work for the government to open a lot of employment so that you get a place to work, you may be in your 50s. The sad thing about it is that no matter how late you start, when you get to 40, when you get to 60, they would tell you that go into retirement. So if you're a young man, if you're a young woman, and you're thinking, you're planning, maybe there are so many opportunities now that you can do. The only thing is that you have to have the right mindset. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into, and you have to brace yourself to go to get through this journey. And some of us have been through it. It's been very hectic, but it's very fulfilling. That I can tell you. There's nothing that comes close to trying to build an idea into business. There's nothing as fulfilling as entrepreneurship. That one I can tell you. There's nothing as free in terms of freedom that, okay, this is what I have, this is what I'm working on. You control your time. The fact is that you work a lot of hours, but you control your time. And you fail so many times. But if you have the right attitude, you have the right psyche, you have the right information, you get back and you keep pushing. And so the design decides the future of that business, the success of that business. Majority of the Africans, those who were colonized by the British and all these Europeans, majority of them, the current culture they live in is that they have to go to school, look for a place to work, and usually it's the government place to work. So if you happen to have gone to school and you're thinking of entrepreneurship and things like that, you're not going to be in the popular. You're not going to be among the majority of the people. Most people will not fancy you, but that should not worry you. Just brace yourself, study well. The educated don't think about business. They're thinking about big positions in government, big positions in the multinationals. And so when you take this part, it's it's a weird part. It's very weird to majority of the people, because even the people who come close to starting businesses, let's face it, most of the people we call businessmen and women are not people who started business with a typical idea which they develop into a product or a service. Majority of them had to get some government contract somewhere with some connection, and they gave them big money, and they went to do something and they paid them, and they had excess money and they started to build something. They started to expand, and then they become business people. And so the knowledge that a lot of people would have to have, instead in terms of how to pick an idea and develop the idea into business, for me, looks like it's a bit scarce in terms, especially among those who can read, who can write, who have some level of certificate, who have some level of education. Because most of the people, if you go to, let's say, what they call the informal sector, let's say you go to Adum Kumasi, you go to, let's say, Makola, majority of the people, not everybody, majority of the people who are trying to trade, usually they will tell you that they didn't go to school much. That's why they happen to do business, even though they are doing far better in terms of finance than most of the people who went to school. But you can clearly see that if these people had gone to school, they probably would not be here. And so our educational system has also been designed to take us out of the very area that we needed a lot of people to use their brains to create opportunities and to create, because I believe that there's no way our country or our continent is going to develop if majority of the people that we're educating in the universities cannot produce anything. And you cannot produce anything and make it accessible to the market, push it to the market, if you don't have a vehicle, and that vehicle is a business, a company. And it takes entrepreneurs to build companies. And so if you're talking about the prosperity of our continent, we have got to have a lot of people who can develop an idea, build a business infrastructure around it, and push it to the market and create a lot of opportunities. But they have got to know how the business is designed, and they have got to know how it can be structured for success. Majority of our people, when they start businesses, they are thinking of, it is in the hands of God, and things like that. Listen, I believe in God. I pray a lot of the times. I read the Bible. I've been Christian all my life. But I've found out something, that when it comes to building anything, when it comes to building your family, building a company, building a country, building your life, you are better off learning how it is done and done well than waiting for some supernatural power somewhere to help you to explode. I'm not saying it cannot happen, but a lot of the times, if you look at big companies around the world, they've been built with ideas, they've been built with data, they've been built with principles, with laws, with things that they know, the patterns, the theories that they have tested and keep trying. They have tried those and they have worked and they fall into them. Majority of us from this part of the world, we are yet to catch up with that. We don't believe in data. We don't believe in, things that you can study and say that this is how it's supposed to be. Majority of us are just people who hope and pray that the supernatural will happen. And so a lot of people believe in luck. When you're going to build a business, it's not luck. It should be the last item on the list. It's not luck. You're not looking for luck from the beginning. You're not looking for some favor somewhere from the beginning. You're looking for things that you must identify for the business to work. And so the design, one of the parts that you have to look for the design is that idea that you have. Do you think that idea is workable in a kind of environment, in a country, in the city, in the town? Do you think that the city is ready for that kind of business? Do you think there is a market for it? Because the business, the success of it, is going to depend on how well it is designed. Is the model workable? Can it succeed? There are people who have started businesses in areas that the market was not ready, in areas that nobody would want to buy. They just started something. But your success rate is hastening. Your success rate is better when you really are doing a business that the market is ready for, that has the potential of growing and expanding. So look at that idea that you have. Is the market ready? For instance, if you want to build let's say in Ghana, you want to build a business and you want to say that you want to build a business to go to space. The fact is that is not what is on our mind at the moment. So your space business may succeed in another country, but may not be a business that Ghana is ready for. And so look at the areas. And I think that if you look at the structure of economy, if you look at the level of maturity of economy, a lot of the businesses that can succeed in our environment, I'm not talking of contracts, I'm talking of businesses that you are built in with ideas, with skill, with foresight, with vision. A lot of them would have to fall in the agri sector, from the farming to seed production, from a lot of the activities happening on the farm, from the harvesting of whatever that you're planting, to the processing, to the waste that comes out of it, everything in between. A lot of the maturity of our economy really falls into that, and any other activity, business activity that can be linked to this has the potential of succeeding. So maybe you want to become a finance company. Maybe you may have to look at how can I help this group, because the fact is that we import a lot of food. And so any business that is linked to that, if you do your things well, you may succeed. If you look at the economy, where are the areas that you think we have a lot of need? Because the advantage is that there are so many areas that we have need for, accommodation, clothes. There are so many things that are, that anybody at all can start business in. It could even be trading in any of them. If you look at the most successful business people, entrepreneurs in Africa, and the areas they are succeeding in, you look at it, they are just primary areas that has huge potential. There is maximum, or there are serious demand for that, and that's why they're exploding. So look at the business. There are a lot of people who may have business ideas, but they are wasting their time in areas that may not be so much scalable, may not have the potential to explode. So the success of your business is really in its design. So look at your passion and look at the economy. Do they meet somewhere? And does that have potential to grow? If you don't do that, it will be difficult. The other thing that you may have to look at is, can you provide the needed strength that the business will need? Do you think that you are qualified to lead such a business? Do you have it? Is it the technical expertise or is it the managerial expertise? Do you have the leadership? Do you think you are cut for this? I'm not talking of a business that you set on a table and you're just looking for revenue to feed your family. No, I'm looking at you being able to build a business that can employ people. You are looking at starting a business and giving opportunities to people. Do you think that you can provide that kind of leadership? Because that is what is needed. So the success of the business is its design. And it's not so much the money, but it's so much the idea. Is the idea workable? Can you provide the required leadership? And then the other thing that you may have to look at is that, do you think you have the foresight? Can you see? Do you have the strength? Do you have the persistence? Can you endure before the business will work? Because the design is so much important. If you look at it, nobody still succeeds in business in 1 year. Definitely not in our country. Nobody succeeds business even in 2 years. Definitely not in our country. In a lot of the places, people will borrow and they pay maybe 5% a year. In our country, you borrow, just recently, just about 2 years ago, it was around 40 to 50%, which means that if you start a business and you don't know what you're doing and you go to borrow 40%, you are going to fail automatically. You don't need a profit. You are going to fail because if they give you 100,000 within 2 years, that 100,000 is gone. The third year, you may have to borrow money and give it to them. And the business is not succeeding in the third year anyway. So be prepared for that. The business is going to start to succeed maybe in your seventh, in your eighth, in your ninth year. So by that time, your 100,000 has become 1,000,000. You have created disaster for yourself. So understand, do you have the foresight? Because the design, the failure or the success is in the design. So you are looking at not giving yourself 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to succeed. And you're looking at building a business that is going to employ people, whether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A business that is meeting critical need. We have a lot of young people spending a lot of hours developing things that will not change the dynamics of our country. They are producing, we have a lot of people producing music and movie. Listen, music and movie, especially the kind of music and movie that they are producing in our country, they are not going to help us develop. That's the fact. And yet a lot of them are focusing on that. Or maybe some app entertainment. Entertainment is always about entertainment or sports. Those things can never change the dynamics of our country. And that's why you're not going to have a lot of successful people coming from there, because it's not really a critical need. So 1 or 2 people could succeed, but it's not going to be a critical force, create a lot of, successful entrepreneurs from that sector. If you look at it, the sectors that are going to produce a lot of successful entrepreneurs, look, those are the sectors that are really, really needed in our economy. So look at how the business you're designing it. Have the mindset that I'm going to build a business and I'm going to create employment. I'm going to have to, I'm going to need people who I can manage, I can lead. You need the success. One of the factors is also that the success of your business will also depend on the quality of people you're able to gather around you. So if you have 1, 2, 3 people, because what it takes for somebody to work in a startup is so much different from what it takes for somebody to work in a company that has been around for so many years with systems and structures set. If you start a business, the kind of employee, the kind of people that you need to help you, they must be people who really want to be part of such an idea to explore. And majority of the people that we have here, majority of these guys who have completed school, they don't have that thinking to work in a startup and to see it grow. Because once they finish the school, they're looking for salary, big position, big car, big house, and then they're looking to be, to go and marry the next minute. So you have to have all these factors in mind, because if you don't have them, then the business that you're going to build, even if it's on the right path, you start to think that the business is not working because you didn't design it well. A lot of the businesses that we started that didn't work out well is because some of them, the idea was wrong. Some of them, we didn't have the right team. Some of them were in haste. Some of them, we just made stupid decisions. And so the success of the business, those that worked, you can see that the factors were there. You can see that there was team cohesion. You could see that we understood what we were doing. You can also see that the prospects were high. It has the potential to grow. So you have to look at that. One other factor that you may have to look at for your business to succeed will be how you structure the business. Are you going to register it as an enterprise? Are you going to register it as a limited liability company? You have got to understand the implications in a country. If you register a business, Right from the day that you're registering, they slap a tax on you. I hope they change it, but at the moment they have not changed it. There are things that you must understand. You're paying tax for business that has not worked, and when you ask them, they don't even know. We follow a lot of these laws because of what the British left us, and the British never set up a country for us to produce entrepreneurs who work to produce successful and prosperity for our continent or for our country. No, they just set. That's why the education system was never set for our development. What they left was never set for our people to think. No, it was set for us to just get teachers and things like that to follow. That's to follow the line, to follow the things that they set for us. It was never set for us to develop. Never. And so the same in all the institutions that they left, the tax people, the city council people, all those people who come one way or the other in your business, they are still working with the old British, things that were never meant for our people to create prosperity and create ideas and innovate and build businesses and make sure that our country develops. So the thing is that you may have to go and understand how these institutions operate. You have to understand how the tax people operate, and you have to know this kind of industry that I've started. What are the tax implications? Because you cannot grow a business and hide. No business is big and is hiding. So once the business will start to explode, because you're designing the business with the idea that this business can explode and employ people potentially. So in the 10th, in the 20th, in the 30th year, this business can explode. You are trying to design a business like that. You're prospecting, but at least you have that in mind. So which kind of industry? What are the tax laws there? What are the exemptions in that area? What are the things that you think can work in your favor? You have to understand them. For instance, in Ghana, if you start cocoa farm, for instance, it's free. It's free in terms of tax. If you go to the Upper East region to start processing a great product, virtually you don't pay anything. So there are areas that you can start and the thing about business is that once you start, you have to try to be a good person, and you have to try to follow the laws, even though they were not set for us to prosper. There are so many of them, they just don't work. They make doing business so difficult, but you cannot go against them. You have to just learn how to get along and how to grow and grow, because the business must grow, and the business cannot grow beyond your level of understanding of how things are done as a business leader. So the design is so much critical. Are you going to register it as an enterprise, or you're going to register it as a limited liability company? You have to know the implications. If you register it as an enterprise, what are the implications? And if you register it as a limited liability company, what are the implications? The design is responsible for the success of the business. So you have to study all those and know that what I'm doing, is it right or is not right. The other day I was talking to this person who I was interviewing, and I asked, so would you want to go back to school, just a very primary level employment? And she said that no, I want to do business. So in the mind of the girl, if you want to go to, if you don't go to school, then you do business. And I understand that. If you really, business is no school, you don't need PhD in business study to become an entrepreneur. Once you can read, you can write. The business is on the field. Business is tough. It's done on the field. It takes courage. It takes strength. It takes persistence. It takes a lot of things. You hit back and come back. Fall down and come back. That's business. And so if you don't have that kind of thinking, it will be very difficult. So the success of the business is in its design. You have to know how you are going to, what kind of product that you are bringing. What kind of product that your business is responsible for bringing it to the market. Do you think that you understand how the product is? Do you have the expertise? For instance, if you start a construction company and you don't know anything about construction, and nobody on your team knows anything about construction, it's chaos that you have started. It's going to be trouble. The more you understand the business and the product and everything that the business does, the better and your chances of succeeding with that business. It's not magic, it's not anything. The closer you are to understanding the finances, the closer you are to understanding the market, the closer you are to understanding how to lead the people, how to set the logistics, the closer you are to understanding all these things, the more successful or the more likely that your business is going to succeed. Some people have no clue what they're doing. They're just moving around. There are no systems, they are not structuring, they are not setting anything in place. They're just hoping that the business will work out. It does not work out like that. A lot of, even in so-called organized economies, They say that 90% of the businesses will not work within 5 years, and the 10% that is left, 90% of that 10% will not work. I just say that multiply that by two in our country, so it means that just about 1% will work in the 5 years, and then just about 0 point something percent will work in the 10th year, because the factors that contribute to the failure of businesses are so many. But there are so many because we have not trained for the things that will come, and one of it is design the business. If you see a very successful business person and who is trying to start another company, you can see that they start with a different understanding, different approach, because now they know better. Because now they know better. So, but the thing about business is that if you have never started it before, then don't be so much scared and don't be so much worried whether it's going to work out or it's not going to work out, because the whole force is in your ability to start whatever. No matter how perfect your design is, when you hit the ground, there will still be troubles. There will still be things that you never anticipated. There will still be things that will shock you. But you cannot be so much exhausted, and be so much worried because the business is not working. What is important is that there are things that you must understand. That once this business has started and is working, its success is going to depend on how well I keep up with the momentum, how well I learn, how well I am researching, how much I can do within the shortest possible time. The more you are learning, the more you commit to the vision, the more you want the business to succeed, and the more everybody is going 1, you are going 20. If they say bring 10, you are bringing 20, you are bringing 50. You want to go to the extra mile, because that is where the success is. If you do what everybody is doing on the average, you are not going to succeed, and that's a fact. Everybody is sleeping at 8, you're also sleeping at 8, and it's a startup. It doesn't work out like that. They are sleeping 8 o'clock, you're sleeping 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. They say that bring the item, somebody has placed an order, bring it by 8 o'clock, you are there by 7 o'clock. So you want to do extra, you want to separate yourself from the average, from those who are not committed to the business. So you want the business to work, you have designed it well. The force of the business is doing. You have to do the business. No matter how intelligent your business idea is, no matter how well you have designed the business, no matter how much well you have prepared yourself, it has to come to a point where you must start the business. And if you don't start it, then there's no business. And so once you start it, then you see the strength of the design, the strength of your idea, and you should be ready for any eventuality. Anything at all can go bad, at any point from anywhere. And you cannot be in that. Once you start to roll the idea on the ground, there will be things that will frustrate you. There will be things that will shock you. There will be things that will prove how ignorant or how unprepared you are. Don't matter. It happens to everybody. Don't worry so much about those, but be prepared to deal with everything that comes along the line. Because the more strong you are, you stay and you keep going, the better you understanding how the business is evolving and how the market is responding to your business idea, how your leadership is responding to what is working and what is not working. So one thing you should also know is that nothing comes close to creating prosperity and creating value for any community, for any country, than entrepreneurship, than business. It's only unfortunate that here people who have not created value, who have not created anything on the market, seem to control a lot of money, and nobody knows the source of their money. But in a proper organized countries, the ordinary person who becomes rich because they took risk. They took commercial risk. They built a business. Sometimes they failed so many times, and they kept going. And every one of them, they will tell you that the business succeeded because they were able to design it and design it well. So if you're that intelligent, you're able to design your first business well, it'll work. If you are not that much, then the business will start to, because the business just reflects what you stand for, who you are. You cannot provide the leadership beyond what leadership you know. So the design is so much important to the success of your business. And I would say that don't just go there and do anything small. Plan and do it well and make sure that it can work, because you never know. Every one of those businesses, they started as small as you have started. And for me, you should never worry so much about what people think. It's a legitimate profession. If you want to develop businesses, it's up to you. Look at the industry that you are prepared for. And never wait for anybody. Sometimes you can complete school and 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, nobody is employing you and you're still there waiting. I would say that even if it's corn that you can roast on the street, start something. It separates your thought. And you cannot be cocky and proud and start a business. Because when you start it, people will laugh at you. But it's in its design. Are you able to design a business well? So think of who is providing the leadership for the business. What kind of people can you bring on the business? What are the skill sets? What are the skill sets? Black, hey, you are there. What are the skill sets that you have? Who do you think can complement your skill? Who do you think? Is it your friend? Is it somebody that, what do you think your business will need for it to succeed? You have to know. What are the areas that you think you don't have strength in that somebody else has? Where you position the business is very much important. What you deal in is so much important. Your understanding of the economy is so much critical to the success of a business. Your ability to pick the right people and provide the right leadership. Can you see far? Can you see far? Can you see the business in the next 3 years? Can you see the business in the next 4 years? What is inspiring you? Why? What is motivating you? Why do you want to start this business? Sometimes that alone will probably make you, maybe the intention of you starting a business today, that's not even worth it in the first place. Somebody said, oh, I want to become rich, that's why I'm starting a business. I think that the thing that will make you keep going is probably higher than just you want to become rich. The lives that you can change, the contribution that you can make to the development of a community, of a country. I think those will inspire you more to keep going when nothing seems to work than just money. Because if it's just money, then if anybody shows up with another easier and cheaper way of making money, even if it's illegitimate, you probably join the team and go and leave this business. But if you see it as a vehicle to help, to create opportunity and bring, and solve a need in the society, then you are not going to just give up like that. So the design is responsible for the success of the business. If you don't design it well, you will fail. If you don't design well, you will fail than you ever even anticipated the time that you will fail. So think of it. My name is Kwabena. The things that I have seen, that the things that we started, and don't forget that getting government contract is not entrepreneurship. It's not so much. You will debate. So think of an idea, think of a product, think of something that you can serve, that you have control, that not one person controls the channel of the revenue. Nobody controls the revenue that is coming in. If you're doing contract, for instance, and just one person is responsible for the certificate payment, and you chase all this accountant all the time, no matter how much amount that they're paying you, usually there is always cash trouble. But if somebody starts a business that anybody at all can come and buy, then 1,001 people can come and buy every time, because the cash flow is so much critical to your first business. If you're not seeing money every day, it's trouble. No matter how much big the contract sum is, if the money is not coming every day, it's a dangerous business for you. You may fail, because a business that is well designed and designed well, part of it is the cash flow. How is the money coming in? What are the margins? Are you making any profit, or are you just losing? Because a profitable business does not mean that the business has a big revenue coming in. No. Sometimes what is coming in is also being spent at the slightest decision. So some businesses may be doing 1 million a year, but their profit could be 50%. And another business may be doing 10 million a year, and their profit could be 5% or 2%. The one who is doing 50% profit margin after everything is more sustainable and it's proper business and it's less stressful, than the one who's doing big figure, but the profit is so little. And so he's always at the red point, which means that if there is anything that happens, any little thing happens, the business can, be grounded. Why? Because the design is responsible for the success of the business. So study the business, study the economy, look at the people who can be part of the idea, assess yourself to see if you qualify to provide this kind of leadership. Do you have the courage? Do you have the energy? Do you have the strength to keep pushing when everybody is leaving the business or when everybody is quitting? Because the design is responsible for the success of the business. Are you going to register the business as a limited liability company? Are you going to register the business as an enterprise? Whatever. You go to the registrar general, they will tell you. But be prepared. Don't just pick anybody as a business partner. Study them. Know them. Study them. Look at what they want to become in the future. Don't just pick anybody, because sometimes that person, maybe the business idea is working, but the wrong partner can destroy every effort that you have made. The fact that you have somebody's name on their form and you sign, and for most people, when they sign the paper and become partner of the business, for them, once their signature is there, that is the partnership. But that means nothing. For the business to work, it takes a lot of work. And the two of you who are involved must work. And if you're not working, the business is not going to work. So if one person is working and the other person is not working, then there is a problem. And sometimes it gets to a point that people become angry, people will feel cheated, and the next minute there's a conflict, there's a rift somewhere, there's a big disagreement, and then the business is going to suffer and probably will never get back. The business may have to be dissolved because of bad team that you started with, because of bad person that you started with, or because maybe not they are bad, but because the wrong person, the right person you didn't see, the wrong person. And these are some of the lessons that you're going to learn anyway. But the business will not going to succeed if you're not close to appropriate design, which represents how most businesses and how they succeed. So sit down. The commitment to the business is critical to the success of the business. The team that you build is critical. How far you see the business, the reason, why do you start this business? Why have you started? What are the cash implications of it? How much do you need for the business to run for it to become profitable? What are the margins? What product are you in? Is it something that is so much dependent on the dollar? And if the dollar is dancing, there's no business, or you structure the business so that if the economy is even bad, the business can do well. All those factors must come in. And you don't build a business, let one person control your revenue. That is dangerous. You don't have any business. Don't let one company just control everything that you have built. So you are looking at the business as a business that does not depend on just one person. The business must not just depend on one person. If it depends on one just client, and that client is angry tomorrow, there is trouble. There is trouble. So the success of the business is in its design. If you don't design it well, you have no success. If you fail to design the business, said that the things that, and if you're spending a lot of money, a lot of us entrepreneurs, we don't have money, and so the little money that we have, if you're going to start a business that is going to make sense, at the beginning, how much you spend in that business is so much critical. It should be a business that you spend that much and quickly you are starting to get revenue. If it's a business that you're going to spend for 1 year and there's no revenue coming in, another year and there's no revenue coming in, and it's your first business, and a part of the world, they don't give money like that to people to experiment. So the business should be designed so that as much as you can, the next few months, revenue starts to come to the business. And proper revenue. The cash flow should be positive. Or you will run away. Or you will run away. And possibly think about the kind of brand that you're building. Think about the website that you can build. Think about social media. The business will not fail if you have designed it well and you have committed yourself to work to make sure that it succeeds. No business will fail if you are committed to make sure that it works out. And as a matter of fact, there is no failure in terms of you as a person. The business idea may not be working out as expected, and you may want to just kill that business. But you as a person must have that strong determination to keep going when everybody else is giving up, to keep going when everybody else is saying that it's not possible. So my name is Obenako. I'm talking about the success of the business is in its design. The success of any enterprise is in its design. What are the things that you understand about how a business should be designed, how it works? You must understand the environment of the business. You must understand that doing business in Ghana is probably different from doing business in another country. You must have fair understanding of the impact of the dollar. For instance, the other time there was what they call doomsaw write-off every day. If you had a processing plant, if you had a manufacturing company, the dollar was running so much, they were increasing the fuel. The buying power was so low. The business had no, your business could just collapse just like that, depending. So if your margins were that little, you'll be gone in the next minute. So that's why there are a lot of businesses that collapse. Some of the banks that collapse, in spite of all their mismanagement and everything, a lot of it was also overhead costs. Operational costs were so high. For 3 years or 4 years, they were buying generators, they were burning fuel very much, And so the design of the business is so much critical. It must be designed to see the environment that is operating in, and to look at the things that will make this business sustainable, even if there is a problem with the inflow. You can design a business so that you have so much allowance in terms of the margins, and you should be able to control your expenses. You don't waste money like that. You consider that in the design of the business. Because if you can just buy, sometimes you don't even need to buy the car. Maybe you may have to rely on throttle or on high taxi. But because you want to pitch yourself as somebody who is so much successful, yet your money that you're using to build business is that small. Instead of the money to go into an activity that will bring the revenue that quickly, now you want to present the company so huge. Meanwhile, the revenue that is coming is that small. That can easily make the business fail. And people who tend to succeed are people who are able to handle some of these little things. The decisions that you're making every minute, every day, they will be responsible for the success of your business. And if you can be somebody who can hold on, and who will not want to impress a lot of people, and so you can hold your strength, you can hold yourself and keep pushing, keep going, and make sure that you prioritize the expenditure and expenses to make sure that where the money is going is really what is going to bring the revenue as needed, and control the borrowing rate, control how you destroy the money, how you borrow, because if you're borrowing more than 30%, then that is a threat to the success of the business. So you may have to factor the debt and see where you really need help. So you have to factor all those, and your proper understanding of finance, how you're able to connect the team to talk, and how you're training the team, the area of the business, they all contribute to the success or the failure of the business. But have in mind that you're building this business and possibly to employ and to grow it and to let it become a big company. You have to have that kind of thinking, and you have to keep trying when everybody else is saying it's not possible. So my name is Obenako. I have talked about the success of the business is in its design. So if you don't design the business well, it's not going to succeed. And you probably have to go and do an in-depth studies on how to design business to succeed. You probably have to read some books, do some research. You don't just start up and say that the business will work. The business will only work and work well when you have come to a state where the business is designed well for it to work. If the business is not designed well for it to work, it won't work. If some factors are not playing well, the business is going to hemorrhage, the business is going to fail, the business, you are going to create a lot of problems, you're going to worry yourself so much because it's not designed, it's not there yet. It has to come to a state where it can win. Everything that wins in this life comes to a state where it can win. You can predict the winning because everything has come, everything is fitting as it's supposed to be. That's all that you are trying to do as an entrepreneur. You go through all these troubles and all these problems to come to a point where you can now design a business for it to work, and you don't need somebody to tell you that this business is going to work. You know that it's going to work because of these factors. When a good referee or when a good coach sees how the ball is being handled on the field, he can know that yes, within the next 2 minutes you are going to score. He knows it. Very good ones, they know it. I mean, even analysts, they know that this one, the way these guys are moving with this speed and going here, the changes that they have made, they will score within the next minute. The boxers, they know it. They know that once the enemy, I'm here, I enter this phase, I know the movement, I can win this match. So the same with business. You go through all this to make sure that the business is pushed and shaped. It comes to a point where the design is so solid that the business is not going to fail. It's going to win. The business does not win just by itself. There are things that are coming, moving, placing. Some are you're eliminating some, you're bringing some in, you're cutting some, you're dividing some, you're multiplying some, and they come to a point where you know that yes, this one is going to succeed. So it's not magic. These ones are not magic. These are things that people have been doing. So they can say that this business will work, but this business is not going to work based on these factors. The margins are low, the team is not solid, there's no leadership, they don't communicate, they just don't understand the market. The dollar has a huge effect on the business. There are so many factors that will easily push a business out of operations, and there are factors that when you are getting them, then everything will show that this business is going to succeed. When it's going to rain, there are things that you will see. When the Hamatan is coming, you will see that this is Hamatan coming. There are always signs. And so when the business is going to succeed, you will see it. You are trying to get the design in that state. And once you get it in that state, it will start to make sense to you. It will start to get results. You will start to see that the business is working. And it takes a lot of time and effort for you to get that design for it to work. So thank you very much for watching. I'm particularly interested in talking to young men and women who want to do something with their lives and who believe that here is a country that they can become anything that they want to become. If you are an entrepreneur and you think of blaming people and you're afraid that what you're doing is not going to work, somebody will, doing something against you. If you have that kind of thinking, you cannot provide the right leadership for the business to work. You can't even design a business for it to work like that. Any little thing you are trying to look for somebody to blame, you cannot win. For a business leader to design a business that will work, you have to exhibit courage. You have to look at figures and facts. You have to make sure that you can pull out the right team together. You must be committed. And you should be ready for the responsibility and never run away from troubles. And take the blame if they are. The blame, the errors of your team, they are all yours. This is the kind of thinking that you have to have. And you have to have respect for people. You have to be ready for whatever people are going to tell you. But you're committed to the vision. You're committed to the dream that this business must work. That kind of leadership. If you see them, you know that that design is going to work. So thank you very much for watching. But if you see somebody who is just blaming and talking and crying and weeping at the slightest opposition and mistakes, that one is not going to survive. That one is not going to work. So my name is Kwabena. Thank you very much for watching, Eric. Thank you very much.